Hey guys, I am Rhea Limpiada from BSED Mathematics 3.
And I am Amira Grace Orehensha from BSED Mathematics 3.
Here to report Artistic and Creative Literacy, Professional Education 8. We have 5 objectives. First, characterize artistic literacy.
Second, discuss the value of arts to education and practical life.
Third, identify approaches to developing or designing curriculum that cultivates the arts and creativity among learners.
Fourth, formulate a personal definition of creativity.
And fifth, design creative and innovative classroom activities for specific topic and grade level of students. Artistic literacy. And now, let us find out what is artistic literacy. In the National Coalition for Core Art Standards, a conceptual framework for art learning, artistic literacy is defined as the knowledge and understanding required to participate authentically in the arts, meaning that for us to participate in activities such as dance, media, music, theater, and visual arts, we have to know and understand first what is art all about. We have to know first the foundation of activities included in art. For instance, in dance, how could you dance well if you don't know the step and you don't even know that dance is a form of art and where it is performed? In addition to that, artistic literacy requires that they engage in artistic creation processes directly through the use of materials and specific spaces such as charcoal or paint or clay, musical instrument or scores, and in specific spaces, concert halls, stages, dance rehearsal spaces, art studios, and computer labs. Researchers have recognized that there are significant benefits of arts learning and engagement in schooling. The flexibility of the forms comprising the arts positions students to embody a range of literate practices, to use their minds in verbal and nonverbal ways, communicate complex ideas in a variety of forms, understand words, sounds, or images, imagine new possibilities, and persevere to reach goals and make them happen. Engaging in quality arts education experiences provides students with an outlet for powerful creative expression, communication, aesthetically rich understanding, and connection to the world around them. Being able to critically read, write, and speak about art should not be the sole constituting factors for what counts as literacy in the arts. Considerably more dialogue, discussion, and research are necessary to form a deeper picture of the arts and creativity more broadly. The cultivation of imagination and creativity and the formation of deeper theories surrounding multimodality and multiliteracies in the arts are paramount. So Elliot Einsner posited valuable lessons or benefits that education can learn from arts, and he summarized this into 8. The first one is form and content cannot be separated. How something is said or done shapes the content of experience. So in education, how something is taught, how curricula are organized, and how schools are designed impact upon what students will learn. These side effects may be the real main effects of practice. The second one is everything interacts, meaning to say that there is no content without form and no form without content. When the content of a form is changed, so too the form altered. Form and content are like two sides of a coin. Then the third one is nuisance matters. It can also be said that aesthetic lives in the details that the maker can shape in the course of creation. How word is spoken, how a gesture is made, how a line is written, and how a melody is played. It all depends upon the modulation of the nuisances that constitute the act. The fourth one is surprise is not to be seen as an intruder in the process of inquiry, but as part of the rewards one reaps when working artistically. Meaning that no surprise, no discovery. No discovery, no progress. So educators should not resist surprise, but create the conditions to make it happen. It is one of the most powerful sources of intrinsic satisfaction. Let's focus in this. No surprise, no discovery. No discovery, no progress. So, di ba sa school, may subject na art ang mga estudyante. So, ikaw na teacher, dapat ay may little surprise ka din naman sa mga ginagawa ng estudyante mo, lalo na kapag nakakagawa sila ng magagandang artwork. Kasi kapag, hindi mo dapat muna sasabihin sa estudyante yun. Mas maganda na nasusurprise sila kasi kapag nasurprise sila, malalaman nila na worth it pala yung kanilang ginawa. At sa sunod na gagawa sila, mas lalo pa nilang pagbubutihan. Masasatisfy sila na, ganun pala si ma'am. Kapag pala maganda yung gawa ko, may award. So, sa susunod na gagawa sila, hindi na lang sila gagawa basta-basta kasi alam na nila na kapag parang tumatak na sa isip nila na kapag maganda yung gawa nilang artwork, may reward sila na makukuha. The fifth benefit is slowing down perception is the most promising way to see what is actually there. It is true that we have certain words to designate high levels of intelligence. We describe somebody as being swift or bright or sharp or fast on the pick-up. Speed in its swift state, a descriptor for those we call smart. Yet, one of the qualities we ought to be promoting in our schools is slowing down of perception. The ability to take one's time, to smell the flowers, to really perceive in the nuances, and not merely to recognize what one looks at. So, ang mga estudyante, when it comes in intelligence, hindi naman sila pare-pareho. Kaya, bilang ang school or ang teacher, nalalaman nila na ganun ang isang estudyante once na pumasok sila sa isang learning or sa isang art subject. Kasi hindi lahat ng estudyante ay magaling sa ganito, magaling sa pag-paint, magaling sumayaw, magaling sa kanta. Iba-iba talaga sila ng, ang tawag dito ay iba-iba sila ng field of specialization or interest. So dahil sa art, nagkaroon ng perception or nalaman ng school na kailangan pala dapat ay hindi masyadong mataas yung standard when it comes sa mga estudyante. Number 6 is The limits of language are not the limits of cognition. So we know more than we can tell. In common terms, literacy refers essentially to the ability to read and to write, but literacy can be reconceptualized as the creation and the use of form of representation that will enable one to create meaning. Meaning that will not take the impress of language in its conventional form. In addition, literacy is associated with high-level forms of cognition. We tend to think that in order to know, one has to be able to say. However, it reminds us that we know more than we can tell. Number 7 is semantic experience is one of the most important indicators that someone has gotten it right. Related to the multiple ways in which we represent the world through our multiple forms of literacy is the way in which we come to know the world through the entailments of our body. Sometimes, one knows a process or an event through one's skin. And number 8 or last benefit is open-ended tasks permit the exercise of imagination, and an exercise of imagination is one of the most important of human aptitudes. It is imagination, not necessity, that is the mother of invention. Imagination is the source of new possibilities. In the arts, imagination is a primary virtue, so it should be in the teaching of mathematics, in all of the sciences, in history, and indeed, and virtually all that humans create. This achievement would require for its realization a culture of schooling in which the imaginative aspects of the human condition were made possible. So, dahil sa art, natututo ang mga bata na mag-imagination, mas lumawak ang imagination pagdating sa mga bagay-bagay. Natututo sila na magtanong or mag-explore pa ng mag-explore. Kasi, di ba, for example, pag sila magdo-drawing, pag pinagdo-drawing sila, hindi pa nila alam kung ano yung i-drawing nila. Siyempre, mag-i-imagine muna sila kung ano ba yung kanilang magandang subject or magandang gawing or magandang i-drawing, magandang i-paint. So, sabi nga dito, in art, imagination is a primary virtue. Pagdating sa art, kahit saang genre ng art, kailangan talaga na malawak ang imahinasyon mo. Katulad na lamang sa pagsayaw, hindi naman dapat hindi kailangan na kung ano lang yung maisip mong step dun sa nababagay dun yung kung ano lang yung maisip mo na step dun sa isang tugtog ay yun na yun. Kailangan mag-isip ka pa talaga ng mag-isip ng magandang step na talagang aakma at babagay. Let's move on to the issues in teaching creativity. So Sir Ken Robinson, in his famous TED Talks on creativity and innovation entitled Do Schools Kill Creativity? How to Escape Education's Death Valley. He stressed paradigms in the education system that hamper the development of creative capacity among learners. He emphasized that schools stigmatize mistakes. This primarily prevents students from trying and coming up with original ideas. He also reiterated the hierarchy of systems. Firstly, most useful subjects such as mathematics and languages for work are at the top, while arts at the bottom. Secondly, academic ability has come to dominate our view of intelligence. Curriculum competencies, classroom experiences, and assessment are geared toward the development of academic ability. Students are schooled in order to pass entrance exams in colleges and universities later on. Because of this painful truth, Robinson challenged educators to educate well-being of learners and shift from the conventional learnings toward academic ability alone, give equal weight to the arts, the humanities, and to physical education, facilitate learning and world towards stimulating curiosity among learners, awaken and develop powers of creativity among learners, and view intelligence as diverse, dynamic, and distinct, contrary to the common belief that it should be academic ability geared. In the first literacies, art, creativity, play, constructive, and meaning-making, McArdle and Wright asserted that educators should make deliberate connections with children's first literacies of art and play. A recommended new approach to early childhood pedagogy would emphasize children's embodied experience through drawing. According to Doris 2001, this would include a focus on children's creation, manipulation, and changing of meaning through engaged interaction with art materials. Through physical, emotional, and social immersion, said Anderson 2003. The authors propose 4 essential components to developing or designing curriculum that cultivates students' artistic and creative literacy. Such approaches actively encourage the creative, constructive thinking involved in meaning-making, which are fundamental to the development of the systems of reading, writing, and numbering. The first component is imagination and pretense, fantasy, and metaphor. It's stated here that a creative curriculum will not simply allow, but will actively support play and playfulness. The teacher will plan for learning and teaching opportunities for children to be, at once, who they are and who they are not, transforming reality, building narratives, and mastering and manipulating signs and symbol systems. The second component is active menu to meaning making. So in a classroom where children can choose to draw, write, paint, or play in the way that suits their purpose and or mode, literacy, learning and arts learning will inform and support each other. The third component is intentional, holistic teaching. So it said here that a creative curriculum requires a creative teacher who understand the creative processes and purposefully support learners in their experiences. So intentional teaching does not mean drill and rote learning. And indeed, endless rote learning exercises might indicate the very opposite of the intentional teaching. What makes for intentional teaching is thoughtfulness and purpose, and this could occur in such activities as reading a story, adding a prop, drawing children's attention to spider's web, and playing with rhythm and rhyme. Even the thoughtful and intentional imposing of constraint can lead to creativity. And last but not the least component is co-player and co-artist. Educators must be reminded of the importance of understanding children as current citizens with capacities and capabilities in the here and now. It is vital for teachers to know and appreciate children and what they know by being mindful of the present and making time for conversation, interacting with children as they draw, Teachers must try to avoid letting the busy management work of their days take precedence and distract them from the being. So again, the four components to developing or designing curriculum that cultivates students' artistic and creative literacy are imagination and pretense, fantasy and metaphor, active minute to meaning making, intentional holistic teaching, and co-player and co-artist. Since we have mentioned creative literacy, now let's find out what is creativity. So what is creativity? Creativity is the process of having original ideas that have value. So when we say creativity, it is your own ideas. It came from your own mind. It is your unique ideas, your imagination, and how you see the world. It is the ability to switch between different modes of thinking and shift their mental focus that suggests connection between creativity and dynamic interaction of brain networks. Creativity is that we think new ideas that is unique to our eyes and to other people. It is turning a new and imaginative ideas into reality. It characterized by the ability to perceive the world in new ways, to find hidden patterns, to make connections between seemingly unrelated phenomena, and to generate solutions. It also involves two processes, thinking, then producing. It is true, right, that before we produce something, we think first, we imagine first, and then we turn it into reality by means of doing it. Creativity is also said to be a combinatorial force, which is the ability to play into one's inner pool of resources and the fragments in the mind to combine them in extraordinary new ways. It is also the process of bringing something new into being that requires passion and commitment. For us to be a creative person, we have to have this passion and commitment. Because if we have this, we could be able to imagine and create new and unique ideas. So all children have capacity for innovation and creativity. Schools should work toward educating the whole being of a child. Creativity begins with the foundation of knowledge, learning a discipline, and mastering a new way of thinking. It can be learned by experimenting, exploring, questioning assumptions, using imagination, and synthesizing information. The ability to generate creative and innovative ideas is not merely a function of the mind, but also a function of 5 key behaviors that optimize brain for discovery. The first one is associating or drawing connections between questions, problems, or ideas from unrelated fields. Second is questioning or posing queries that challenge common wisdom. Third, observing or scrutinizing the behavior of others to identify new ways of doing things. Fourth is networking or meeting people with different ideas and perspective. And last, experimenting or constructing interactive experiences and provoking responses to see what insights emerge. Developing literacies of the arts and creativity involve design of physical learning environment, the emotional environment, scheduling, organization and implementation of curriculum and instruction, and attention to the body and the brain. Therefore, teachers should empowered in developing these literacies among students with the support of the administrators, parents, and other stakeholders. There are 7 habits of highly creative people. Nyman 2014 opined that if a person makes a habit of the 7 practices, he or she will be highly creative in his or her field. Thus, this would help teachers attain highest possible level of creativity. The first habit is prepare the ground. Creativity requires an absorbed mind, a relaxed state of focus and attention by giving the self-sufficient time and space needed while letting the desire to create from the pleasure of creative expression and inspiration. Diba tayo kapag magulo yung isip natin, kapag tayo parang nakabahan, yung kung ano-ano yung iniisip natin ay hindi talaga tayo makapag-focus at yung nawawala yung attention natin na mag-isip na magandang idea. Kaya dapat kapag mag-iisip tayo, kailangan ay chill lang, relax yung ating isip at kung pwede ay pumunta tayo sa lugar kung saan tayo ay komportable at makakapag-isip ng maayos. Kasi the more na ramdam natin na the more na maliwalas yung ating paligid, maayos yung ating nakikita, at isa pa ay tahimik, yung isip natin ay nakarelax, mas makakabuo tayo ng magandang produkto or mas magiging creative tayong tao. The second habit is plant seeds for creativity. It is important to put attention on what you want to create, not on complaints, and set an intention to produce the desired result. So, kailangan kapag mag-create tayo ng isang bagay, yung attention natin is nandun talaga, yung parang nakafocus tayo na ito yung gagawin ko. Kasi kapag hindi tayo nakafocus or madami tayong gustong gawin, hindi natin alam kung saan talaga tayo yung hindi man nakakonstruct yung mga ideas natin, mas lalo lang tayong mahihirapan na mag-isip at makakreate ng magandang resulta. Third is live in the question. Ask questions instead of trying to find immediate answers and pay attention to questions that other people ask. If you want to be creative, don't hesitate to ask questions from other people because the more we ask, the more we get more ideas and the more we come up with a good result. At dapat kapag nagtanong ka sa isang tao, ay open ka sa kanilang mga suggestions. Kasi 'di ba, may ibang tao na kapag nagtatanong ng ganto, ganyan, ay mas pinaniniwalaan pa rin nila yung kanilang sarili. So 'di ba, why magtanong kung hindi ka rin naman pala ready sa suggestion ng ibang tao? Hindi ka bawasan sa isang tao na magtanong kasi hindi naman porket nagtatanong ka ay hindi ka na magaling or hindi na creative mag-isip yung isip mo. Number 4 is feed your brain. Get interested in something that later can provide you wisdom and ideas if you learn to make connections between people, places, and things that are not usually connected. Ang mga creative people, explorer talaga yan. Parang hindi sila nag-i-stick sa kung ano lang yung alam nila. Nagtatanong sila sa mga tao, nakikipag-interact sila sa tao, pumupunta sila sa ibang lugar para mag-explore at makahanap ng magandang idea. Mas gusto nila yung nacha-challenge sila at bago lamang sa kanilang paningin, maging sa paningin ng ibang tao. Number 5 is experiment and explore. Follow your curiosity. Experiment with ideas and learn from your mistakes. Therefore, the quality of your creativity will improve. Just like what I've said earlier, ang mga taong creative, curious talaga yan. Nag-e-explore sila. Kasi the more na nag-e-explore sila, mas nakakakuha sila ng magandang idea. Mas nakaka-construct sila ng magandang result. Being creative takes time. May mga pagkakataon talaga na magkakamali tayo at hindi naman lahat ng ginagawa natin ay maganda na agad yung kinalalabasan. Minsan, may time na magpe-fail tayo but we have to learn from it. Kasi the more na tatanggapin natin na pwede tayong magkamali. Magkakaroon tayo ng chance na i-improve pa yung ating sarili. Mag-i-explore pa tayo at papalawakin pa natin yung ating mga isip. Being creative also takes time and commitment. Kailangan talaga ay yung puso mo or yung passion mo ay nandoon sa ginagawa mo. Number 6 is replenish your creative stock. You must learn to be self-nourishing and translate habits, talents, and skills into wonderful potentials. Kailangan kapag alam mo na may talent ka sa isang bagay na ganito, huwag kang matakot na i-explore or mas i-enhance pa ito or ipakita, ilabas na kaya mo to, kaya mong gumawa ng isang magandang bagay, kaya mong mag-produce or mag-create. If you know to yourself that you have potential, let it be. Show to the world that I can. Show to the world that you can. Nourish yourself and hone your talents and skills. And last, number 7 is liberate your creativity. Your child's play provides the clue to your creativity, potentials, and passion. In general, creativity takes on many forms and businesses: art, design, education, and science. When you express your creativity in these domains, you have the ability to make life indeed a work of art, said Nyman, 2011. Let's move to eye-hand coordination. In most of our creative activities and endeavors, we integrate eye-hand coordination as we inhibit our usual body functioning. Eye-hand coordination, also known as hand-eye coordination, is the coordinated control of eye movement with hand movement and the processing of visual input to guide reaching and grasping along with the use of proprioception of hands to guide the eyes. Sa lahat ng ginagawa nating activities, even sa pag tayo nagsusulat, 'di ba? Nakatingin tayo sa ating kamay. So, kung ano yung stroke na ginagawa ng ating kamay, sumusunod lang yung ating mata. So, ang tawag doon is eye-hand coordination. So, eye-hand coordination can be observed in diverse activities such as the movement of objects, handwriting, catching a ball, sports, performance, music reading, computer gaming, typing, and others. In short, it becomes part of the mechanism of performing everyday tasks. Without it, people would be unable to carry out even the simplest actions in daily life. Eye-hand coordination, therefore, is the ability of the vision system to coordinate the information received through the eyes to control, guide, and direct the hands in the accomplishment of a given task. It is also a complex cognitive ability as it unites visual and motor skills, allowing the hand to be guided by the visual stimulation that the eyes receive. It is the ability to do activities that require simultaneous use of hands and eyes, like an activity that uses the information that eyes perceive or yung tinatawag natin na visual spatial perception, to guide the hands in carrying out a movement. So, hand-eye coordination is important for child development and academic success, which is equally important among adults to use in the countless activities on daily basis. Most activities in day-to-day life use some degree of eye-hand coordination. The reason why it is really important to develop it as possible. Obviously, visual information is used to correct an inappropriate behavior in a situation. We use our eyes to direct attention to a stimulus and help the brain understand where the body is located in space or yung ating self-perception. Reciprocally, we use our hands to simultaneously carry out a determined task based on the visual information that our eyes receive. Here are some examples in where we use eye-hand coordination. First is in writing. When making lines, the eyes send visual information to the brain to tell where the hand is placed and if handwriting is legible. Second is typing on a keyboard. Although the types of movement are different, but visual information is used to tell the brain how to guide the hand or if a mistake needs to be corrected. Third is when driving. It uses visual information to move the hands on the wheel, keeping the car in the middle of the lane and avoiding accident. And number 4 is in sports. In any sports, the eyes usually coordinate with the movement of some parts of the body called motor coordination. Depending on the sport, either hand-eye coordination or foot-eye coordination. So, the games that we use hand-eye coordination are basketball, tennis, and football. And on the other hand, the games that we can use foot-eye coordinations are soccer, track, and etc. And that concludes my report. And for the continuation of our topic, let me give you Miss Amira Grace Rehentia.
In this next slide, we will be talking about problems and disorders related to poor eye-hand coordination. First, hand-eye coordination can also work poorly even if the person's eyes and vision are not affected and if their motor control skills work properly. So this refers to people who are innately bad at hand-eye coordination, wherein their brain cannot work in cohesion with the motion of their hand. This does not always indicate that there is something wrong with the person, but it is also said that any alteration to visual or motor systems can significantly affect hand-eye coordination, like visual or muscular problems such as strabismus or crossed eyes, amblyopia, muscle hypotonia, balance problems or crossed laterality. In this slide, we can see a person or a little girl who has strabismus or crossed eyes. Strabismus is the abnormal alignment of the eyes, wherein the eyes cannot look together towards a certain object. One eye may look up and the other at another direction. One eye may look on the left and one eye may look to the right. Because of this, the brain gets confused, so the motion of the hand does not match what the person sees. And this greatly affects the hand-eye coordination of a person who has strabismus. And in most cases, people who have strabismus does have a bad hand-eye coordination. In this slide, we can see amblyopia, wherein it is a condition where one eye cannot focus as well as the other. Because of this, the other eye most likely turns outwards. The good thing about this is it is treatable by medical professionals. And most of the time, people who has amblyopia have eye patches like a pirate. And by doing so, it can be corrected. So, the problem here is focus. Hindi makapag-focus yung mata ng isang tao. Therefore, magkakaroon talaga ng hindi magandang hand coordination yung tao. Kasi nga, hindi ma-relate noong image na nakikita nung brain dun sa motion na dapat igagalaw niya sa hand. In the previous slides, we talked about people who have disabilities when it comes to their eyes and their vision. Now we will talk about hypotonia, or the state of low muscle tone. What does this mean? This means that the amount of tension or resistance to stretch in a muscle is low. Kung makikita natin sa photo, yung baby is limp. Kumbaga, ang kanyang mga kamay, ang kanyang braso, ang kanyang binti ay nakahang lamang. And this is a sign na merong low resistance yung muscle ng bata. This causes them to have reduced muscle strength. So, medyo mahina sila. And hindi nila makontrol ng ganun kaayos yung kanilang muscle. So, hindi mai-relate ni brain ang nakikita ng mata naman doon sa motion ng kanyang muscles or motion ng kanyang hand. That is why people who have hypotonia most of the time have bad hand and eye coordination. Now let's move on to balance problems or cross-laterality. First, let us understand what is laterality. So according to neuronup.us, laterality is the distribution of functions across the two cerebral hemispheres, the preference for one side of the body over the other to perform actions depends on this distribution. So ibig sabihin daw, the two cerebral hemispheres, the right and the left, has specific function. So merong function si right na kaiba sa function ni left cerebral hemisphere. And ang pag-assign sa mga function na ito ay nakaka-contribute sa laterality ng isang tao. So pag sinabi natin cross-laterality, nagkakaroon siya ng association sa katulad ng foot, ng hand, ng eyes. Kasama na rin ang ears, wherein dominance is not ununiformly right or left-sided. And people who have this have symptoms like difficulties in reading, writing, and arithmetic skills, problems with spatial and temporal organization, difficulties in spelling encoded information, psychomotor impairment, letter reversal in writing and reading. So, makikita natin agad na nahihirapan yung tao na kontrolin yung kanyang muscles, yung kanyang psychomotor domain dahil sa pagkakaroon ng crossed laterality. Poor hand-eye coordination can affect activities that may lead to developmental disorders, learning disorders related to reading, writing, or playing sports. In academic, making mistakes when they take notes, poor handwriting, poor attention, professional areas in typing, assembling objects, and problems with daily activities. Now, I can personally relate to this because I am nearsighted. I was diagnosed late when I was in grade 7, and the doctor said that I had poor eyesight probably around 3 years old, and from then on, my eyesight started to deteriorate. And I can vividly remember when I was in kinder and elementary, my teachers would always say, "Amira, napakapangit ng sulat mo. Hindi ko maintindihan ang sulat mo." And nung na-diagnose ako na nearsighted or malabo yung mata ko, sabi nung teacher ko, That's the reason siguro bakit hindi mapaganda yung sulat mo. Kasi hindi mo makita ng maayos ang iyong sinusulat, kaya't hindi mo siya magaya. And I can also relate to making mistakes when I take notes. Because when I was in elementary, because I was quite tall during that time and big, lagi akong situated at the back of the classroom. And madalas, mali yung nakikita ko sa board. Yun pala ay, for example, can. Ang kita ko sa kanya ay car. O kaya ay dissolve. Ang kita ko sa kanya ay different. And that was very hard for me during that time. Kasi hindi ko maintindihan kung ano ba talaga yung dapat kong isusulat dun sa nakikita ko. And again, totoo rin na merong problems with daily activities kapag merong kang poor eye-hand coordination. Kasi, because of my nearsightedness, minsan may ipapakatch sa akin yung aking kasama. Hindi ko siya makatch kasi hindi ko mapinpoint kung alin ba yung ikakatch ko. Another example is, noong bata ako, tuwing inapagwalis ako ng aking mga magulang, lagi nila akong inakagalitan kasi daw hindi malinis, hindi maayos. And dahil doon, ang inagawa ko ay naupo ako sa pagwalis para makita ko kung nasan ba yung may dumi. And totoo siya with poor hand-eye coordination kasi hindi ko ma-relate yung nakikita ko again dun sa dapat motion ng aking kamay. Poor hand-eye coordination can have a variety of causes, but there are two main conditions for inadequate hand-eye coordination. These are vision impairment and movement disorders. First, we have vision impairment. It is the loss of vision that makes it hard or impossible to perform daily tasks without specialized adaptation caused by loss of visual acuity in which the eye does not see objects as clearly as usual. In vision impairment, ang may problema ay ang mata, ang eyesight, wherein hindi ma-interpret ng ating utak yung nakikita natin. Hindi siya malinaw na i-interpret. Kaya, hindi rin nare-relate nung brain yung motion ng ating muscles, ng ating hand muscles. Kaya nagkakaroon ng hand-eye coordination that is poor. And sabi dito, kailangan ng specialized adaptations. Ano yun? Yung specialized adaptations na yun ay maaaring eyeglasses o kaya naman mga eye patches. Minsan, nagbibigay din ang ilang mga doctors ng eye drops para mapigilan ang pag-worsen ng kanilang vision impairment. In other cases, hindi na gumagaling or almost impossible na maging normal ang kanilang vision. That is why people opt for operations katulad ng laser eye treatment. Tinatawag natin na laser assistant in situ keratomiliosis or LASIK surgery. At kapag nagkaroon na ng LASIK surgery, medyo blurry pa rin yung paningin ng tao pero slowly magiging normal na siya. It is used to correct myopia, hyperopia, and astigmatism. Next is movement impairment. These are characterized by impaired body movement caused by a variety of causes, such as ataxia, which is characterized by lack of coordination while performing voluntary movements, and the hypertonia, a condition marked by an abnormal increase in muscle tension and reduced ability of a muscle stretch. So, kung kanina sa vision impairment, ang naaapektuhan is the eye or eyesight, ang naaapektuhan naman sa movement impairment ay ang muscle natin. Wherein kahit okay ang iyong paningin, pag hindi mo naman siya maisagawa gamit ang iyong muscles, ang iyong movement, lalong nagkakaroon ng poor hand-eye coordination. Hand-eye coordination development stages. First, let's start with between birth and 3 years. Between birth and 3 years of age, infants can accomplish the following skills and can start to develop vision that allows them to follow slowly moving objects with their eyes. Begin to develop basic hand-eye skills such as reaching, grasping objects, feeding, dressing. Begin to recognize concept of place and direction such as up, down, in, and develop the ability to manipulate objects with fine motor skills. This is the reason why between birth and 3 years old, it is essential that the parents find ways to sharpen the psychomotor skills of the children. It is in this stage that we can already see if there is something wrong with the hand-eye coordination of a toddler. Next is between 3 and 5 years old. Between 3 and 5 years of age, little children can, number 1, continue to develop hand-eye coordination skills, a preference for left or right-handedness. Number 2, continue to understand and use concepts of place and direction such as up, down, under, beside. Number 3, develop the ability to climb, balance, run, gallop, jump, push, and pull, and take stairs one at a time. And develop eye, hand, body coordination, eye learning, and depth perception. Now, in this stage of a child's life, they are a ball of energy. Punong-puno sila ng energy. Kaya sa panahong ito, sobrang lilikot ng mga bata. And a parent or someone who supervises these kids should not disencourage them to be malikot. Kasi, by being malikot, nai-inculcate nila or nalilinang nila yung kanilang psychomotor skills. Kasi sabi dito, they climb, balance, run, gallop, jump, push and pull, and take stairs one at a time. So, pag ine-exercise nila ito ng ine-exercise, then malaki yung chance na ma-develop palalo ang kanilang eye, hand, and body coordination. Third stage, 5 to 7 years. Children between 5 and 7 years old can improve fine motor skills such as handling, writing tools, using scissors, etc. Continue to develop climbing, balancing, running, galloping, and jumping abilities. Continue to improve hand-eye coordination and handedness preference, and learn to focus vision on schoolworks for hours every day. In this stage, makikita natin agad yung development ng isang bata compared dun sa mga naunang stages. In this stage, it is good to exercise the fine motor skills such as handling, writing tools, and using scissors. So we can observe that in 5 to 7 years, dyan nagsisimula ang pag-improve ng sulat ng isang bata. From kinder to grade 2, nag-start na sila ng pag-trace ng mga letters. And ginagawa muna nila yun sa hindi cursive, tapos cursive na, hanggang sa unti-unti ma-develop nila ang kanilang fine motor skills. And dito rin ay nakafocus na tayo dun sa handedness preference. So, ibig sabihin, dito na fix kung ikaw ba ay kaliwete or kanan ang ginagamit mong dominant hand. Now let us move on to visual literacy. In the advent of the internet, students must develop the necessary visual literacy skills to navigate the image-intense world. Therefore, visual literacy refers to the interpreting and creating visual images and usually about communication and interaction. This conveys that it is vital for someone who lives in the 21st century world to be visually literate. Let us further define visual literacy. Visual literacy is the ability to read, write, and create visual images. This means that to be visually literate, you don't only need to understand images, but also be able to create them. Number 2, a linguistic tool when we communicate, exchange ideas, and navigate our highly visual digital world. This means that visual literacy is another form of language wherein we communicate using images to exchange our ideas. Examples are the memes, signages, logos. Those are just images, but we can understand what those images means. Those images have assigned meanings that is unique to themselves. Lastly, according to John Debs, visual literacy refers to a group of vision competencies a human being can develop by seeing, having, and integrating other sensory experiences. So, ibig sabihin, ang visual literacy ay ang kakayahan ng bawat tao na makaunawa o makaintindi sa pamamagitan ng kanilang paningin. At ayon dito, maaari pa daw itong ma-develop. According to Oxford Research Encyclopedia, visual literacy is the ability to interpret, negotiate, and make meaning from information presented in the form of an image, extending the meaning of literacy. Ibig sabihin nito ay kayang-kaya nating basahin ang meaning behind an image. Hindi na lang tayo nag-i-interpret or nakakabasa ng mga written forms or printed text, pero kaya na rin nating i-interpret ang ibig sabihin ng mga pictures, kagaya nga ng signages. Kapag nakita natin yung kulay na pula sa traffic light, alam na natin agad na, that means to stop. Sa ganung paraan daw, makikita natin yung ating visual literacy. Ayon naman kay Serafini 2017, visual literacy is a set of visual competencies or cognitive skills and strategies one needs to make sense of visual images. These visual competencies were seen as universal cognitive abilities. So again, visual literacy daw is a set of skills na nakakatulong sa atin sa pag-intindi ng message behind an image. At sabi dito, universal cognitive ability daw. So, ibig sabihin, halos lahat tayo ay merong kakayahan na mag-interpret ng message behind images. Visual literacy is contextualized social practice as much as an individualized cognitively based set of competencies. Visual literacy is a process of generating meanings in a transaction with multimodal ensembles that include written text, visual images, and design elements from a variety of perspectives. So this means that ang pagpapakahulugan natin sa visual images ay nakadepende sa social context. Example, nakakita tayo ng isang baril. Maaaring ang iba ay malulungkot dahil iniisip nila na ang kahulugan ng baril na ito ay kaguluhan. Meron din namang iba na mamamangha dahil para sa kanila, ang kahulugan ng baril na ito ay kagitingan. So, nakadepende sa social context ang pagpapakahulugan natin sa meaning ng isang visual image. Lastly, it is integrated across disciplines. Visual literacy incorporates social, cultural, semiotic, critical, and multimodal perspectives to understand the meanings that are potential in the visual and verbal ensembles encountered in a social environment. So, ibig sabihin, nakakadagdag din daw ng meaning ang mga pangyayari sa different disciplines. Kung baga, ini-integrate natin ito sa pagkakaintindi natin at pagkakaunawa natin ng isang image. Digital technology has greatly impacted our understanding of visual literacy as we now see children growing up with tablets and computers and what appears to be highly developed visual literacy instincts. So kapansin-pansin yan sa mga bata na magaling na sila agad on an early age sa visual literacy. Bakit? Kasi karamihan sa kanila ay nakakagamit ng cellphone, nakakagamit ng tablet, hindi naman sila marunong magbasa ng mga words. Pero naiintindihan nila na kapag nakita nila yung bahay na icon, ibig sabihin nun ay home. Naiintindihan nila na kapag nakita nila yung mukhang F na icon, ibig sabihin nun Facebook. Wherein in that early age, nakikitahan natin agad sila ng visual literacy. Now let's move on to verbal creativity. In view of the rapidly increasing complexity of the world, creativity is more important now than ever before, and is even considered as a useful and effective response to evolutionary changes. How so? It allows the individual to flexibly respond to the continuously changing conditions around. This means that creativity allows human beings to be able to adapt with changes that come with world evolution. We have creativity to think for the inventions that humans come up with to make life easier. One example is the cell phone. Dahil sa sobrang creative ng mga tao, naisip nilang gumawa ng iba't ibang design para makatulong sa daily activities at daily tasks ng mga tao. And mapapansin natin na yung mga bagong release is much more creative than that before it. At talaga namang nakakatulong siya na maresolba ang mga problema na kinakaharap natin sa henerasyong ito. Torrance and Hassan recognize creativity as important for the development of a fully functioning, mentally healthy, well-educated, and vocationally successful individual. I agree with this. Kasi mapapansin natin, yung mga successful people, sila yung pinaka-creative. Isang example ay si Elon Musk. Masasabi kong siya yung pinaka-technologically advanced na tao dito sa mundo. At pinaka-creative din. Kasi nakakagawa siya ng mga invention na hindi mo halos maisip paano niya to na-conceptualize. Isa nga sa mga ginawa niya ay ang famous Tesla cars. At hindi siya kagaya ng mga kotse na nakikita natin. Pwede siyang mag-drive mag-isa, pwede kang mag-stream sa loob, pwede kang mag-browser, and sa kasalukuyan, patuloy silang nagde-design ng car na kahit mabangga ka ay hindi siya babaliktad but it will stay upright. Diba, isipin natin, napaka-creative ni Elon Musk kasi na-conceptualize niya ang ganong klaseng invention. At ngayon, nakakatulong na siya na maka-adapt tayong mga tao sa mga problema na hatid ng mundo. And dahil dun sa creativity niya yon, naging successful siya at siya pa ang tinaguriang pinakamayamang tao sa mundo. Kaya tayo din, dapat maging creative tayo. Hindi dahil para maging mayaman tayo kagaya ni Elon Musk, pero dahil ang pagkakaroon ng creative mind ay nangangahulugan na isa kang fully functioning, mentally healthy, well-educated, and vocationally successful individual. According to Scott 2004, creativity-related skills can be improved by providing specific rules, techniques, or strategies to develop appropriate cognitive skills for the domain at hand. This could be realized through creative ideation, trainings, or divergent thinking exercises. So, ibig sabihin nun ay, pwede nating ma-exercise ang ating creativity. Pwede natin siyang magawa through stimulating effective search, retrieval, and integration combination of remote association related to a given stimulus word. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan natin ng stimulator. And this stimulator will boost or promote our creativity. Sabi pa, ang isa pang paraan ay through divergent thinking. Pero ano nga ba ang divergent thinking? Here, divergent thinking is useful concept for identifying, supporting, and measuring creativity. Ano ba muna ang ibig sabihin ng divergent? When we say divergent, it is different, odd, contradictory, dissimilar. Therefore, when we say divergent thinking, we should have a different thinking. Sa paraan na ito, lalong nai-inculcate ang ating creativity. Nakakahanap tayo ng iba't ibang paraan para i-manipulate, i-measure, at i-identify ang mga konsepto. At meron siyang 4 major components. Unang-una, andyan ang fluency. Next is flexibility. Next is originality. And last is elaboration. When we say fluency, it refers to the total number of ideas, options, and solutions generated for an open-ended problem. So, fluency relates to the number. Gaano ba kadami yung iyong ideas, yung pinagpipilian mong options at solutions na mag-cater sa iyong problema sa kasalukuyan. Next is flexibility, which refers to the number of conceptual categories. So dito naman sa flexibility, we deal with conceptual categories or gaano kadami ang grupo ng konsepto mo, wherein you group your ideas. Third, we have originality, which is the aspect of created or invented works and is about statistical infrequency of responses related to the task compared with the original ideas. So, in this component, tatanungin mo, ilan na ang ganitong product? Ilan na ang merong ganitong invention? Kung meron ka ng halos kapareho, how do you differ? So, that is originality. Gaano ka-unique yung iyong invented work? How is it different from the others similar to your invention? The last component of divergent thinking is elaboration, which refers to the ability to expand on an idea with details and the ability to create an intricate plan. So in elaboration, you're going to ask yourself, how are you going to follow through with your idea? Paano mo pa siya papalawakin? Again, gusto kong gamitin ang example ng ating mga cellphone. Kasi very elaborate na siya. Starting from a very simple device na di keypad lang, konti lamang yung kanyang function, nag-expand pa yung ideas ng mga creators. Kahit madami sila na competitors, they were able to take something from each other, to take ideas and then ilagay siya dun sa kanilang product. And masasabi din natin that they have an intricate plan. Bakit? Kasi kapag may bagong labas sila ngayon, after 6 months, they already have a plan na mag-release uli ng mas bago pa sa latest cellphone na kanilang nilabas. That is how elaboration works. Nagkakaroon ng follow-through sa ideas, sa plano, which further helps inculcate divergent thinking. Now let's move on to cognitive stimulation. Fink et al. 2012 explained that cognitive stimulation through common or moderately creative ideas was effective in improving verbal creativity. And most importantly, stimulation effects were also apparent at the level of the brain. As such, a widespread creativity-related neural network includes left middle and superior temporal gyri along with right parietal cortex being sensitive to cognitive stimulation. So this means that cognitive stimulation is the key to improve our verbal creativity. As proof of this, cognitive stimulation greatly affects the brain, the different parts of the brain. Let's imagine it as some form of exercise that helps the brain think deeply and think more creatively, then apply it in different settings. Now let's move on to aesthetics. Britannica defines aesthetics, also spelled as E-S-T-H-E-T-I-C-S, as the philosophical study of beauty and taste. It is closely related to the philosophy concerned with the nature of art and the concept of which individual works of art are interpreted and evaluated. Therefore, in aesthetics, walang maganda at walang pangit. The concept of beauty completely depends on the person looking on the work of art. It depends upon the taste of the person looking at it. Now let's talk about the nature and scope of aesthetics. Aesthetics deals not only with the nature and value of arts, but also with those responses to the natural objects that find expression in the language of the beautiful and the ugly. The terms beautiful and ugly are too vague and too subjective in meaning. Therefore, nakadepende ito sa kanilang onlookers. Do they think that it is beautiful or ugly? And if we think deeply, everything on earth may be perceived as beautiful or ugly by different people. Therefore, beauty is simply based only on judgment. That's why the term beautiful has no sense except as the expression of an attitude. In turn, people may associate it to different matters. This is the reason why beautiful and ugly becomes insignificant in aesthetics. Beautiful and ugly should not be used to describe any aesthetic form of art. Example, in a poem, it should be described as ironic, moving, expressive, balanced, and harmonious, instead of using beautiful or ugly. There are 3 approaches to aesthetics according to Britannica. First, it is the study of aesthetic concepts or the analysis of language of criticism in which particular judgment are singled out and their logic and justification are presented. Again, an example is beauty. Criticizing something as beautiful depends on the person. Instead, in aesthetics, they need to present logic with their criticism. For example, is in a painting. Instead of using beautiful, they can say that the scenery is calm, it is peaceful, and the complements of the colors are well joined or blended together. That is how we criticize aesthetic art. Second approach, it is a philosophical study of certain states of mind, responses, attitudes, and emotions that are involved in aesthetic experience. This means that it is also important on how we perceive aesthetics in terms of our mind, responses, attitudes, and emotions. So kapag nakakita tayo ng isang aesthetic art, madalas pinaglalaruan niya yung ating emotions. On paano natin siya nakikita, paano natin siya napaperceive. We have the third approach. It is the philosophical study of the aesthetic objects that reflects the view that problems of aesthetic exist because the world contains special objects toward which people react selectively as described in aesthetic terms. Therefore, in aesthetics, they present the problems in its natural form. They do not take in consideration what the other people will think about the said problem. For the last topic, we have integrating arts and creativity literacy into the curriculum. The following are strategies and initiatives in embedding arts and creative literacy in the curriculum. First, we have physical environment. Design a physical environment to support creativity such as castle design, school building, well architecturally designed edifice, roofs and ceilings, creative murals, beautiful garden landscape, colorful blocks and benches in the math and science garden, structured music and arts, an atelier, student lounge, amphitheater, and etc. This means that we should create an environment that fosters creativity and arts. It should be something that inspires the students to do better, to do more, to be creative, and to be productive. Second is the emotional environment. Take time to create and maintain a climate of respect, caring, and support to someone when making mistakes. As we said earlier, emotion is an important or integral part of arts and creativity. That is why it is needed that one might have emotional support when they want to be creative. Do not degrade them because of their mistakes. Huwag nating sabihin yan, ay, mali ka na naman, you're such a failure. Don't say that. Instead, say, mistakes are just the building blocks. It is a road that will take you to your success. Third is project-based learning. Provide students time, space, and opportunity to express themselves, their ideas, emotions, and insights through arts, design, and plan any projects that are relevant, rigorous, and real-world to attain motivation, engagement, and learning. So this means na kapag magbibigay tayo ng activities sa students, make sure that we give them time to express themselves. Pwedeng 1 hour, pwedeng 1 week, depending sa difficulty level nung ibibigay nating activity. Teach creative thinking skills. Teach students about metacognition or thinking about their thinking, even to the little ones through the process of brainstorming, reasoning, comparing, and contrasting, problem solving, concept mapping, analyzing, evaluating, and many more. Therefore, as future educators, we must be the matches that lights the fire of creativity within the students. And we can do this by doing the following: brainstorming, reasoning, comparing, contrasting, problem solving, concept mapping, analyzing, evaluating, and many more. Number 5, alternative assessment instead of just a worksheet or an assignment. Provide different authentic assessments like performance, system design, product output making, visual arts creation, task-based, project-based, portfolio, and others provide with rubrics and other forms of metrics. Dapat daw as future educators, we can provide alternative assessment. Kasi masasawa yung ating mga students pag puro pen and paper assessment lamang yung ating ibibigay. Dapat i-stimulate din natin yung different domains, especially yung psychomotor domain nila. Number 6, scheduling. Project-based curriculum and performance-based assessment need ample time and proper scheduling in either structured or unstructured manner. Gaya ng sinabi natin kanina, mahalaga ang pagbigay ng tamang oras sa mga estudyante when they make their activities or performances. Sa pagbibigay ng oras, depende ito sa difficulty level ng activity na ating ipapagawa. Kung madali lamang ang ating ipapagawa, pwede na yung 1 hour to 1 day. Pero kapag medyo mahirap, kailangan ng conceptualization, about 1 week would be enough and we can extend it if and only if needed. Number 7, student-centered and personalized learning. Provide students freedom to choose on what they will learn, how they will learn it, and how they will demonstrate what they have learned. This means that we give the students a chance to pick what topic they want to learn. We must be reminded that as future educators, we are only facilitators of learning. That is why we are focused more on the students and their acquisition of knowledge rather than our own teaching methods or pedagogy. By doing so, this will foster creativity and artistic literacy, as they will show what they learned in their own ways. Number 8, incorporate arts. Integrate seamlessly music, art, drama, and dance into the curriculum to develop creativity. Example, in mathematics, we can insert songs that talks about parts of a polynomial, the different shapes. We could create a sensory exhibition wherein we would put different geometrical shapes, 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional shapes, wherein by doing so, the students will become fascinated with art and become more creative in learning. Number 9, integration of technologies. Encourage students to create and utilize blogs and websites, Blogster, VoiceThread, student publishing, video game design coding, filmmaking, photography, global collaborative classroom projects using Google Hangouts, and etc. So, dito sa part na ito is we involve technology in the teaching and learning process with arts and creativity literacy. Hayaan natin silang mag-tinker ng different types of technology as long as yun ay para sa pag-aaral nila. Lalo na at ang 21st century world is very much dependent on technologies, digital technologies. Let them explore different platforms that can be used to foster education. Kagaya ngayon, gumagamit tayo ng Google Meet, gumagamit tayo ng YouTube, gumagamit tayo ng Facebook. Lahat ng mga social media platforms ay halos nagagamit na natin bilang educational platforms. Last, number 10, preparing the body and brain for creativity. Create activities that induce body-mind integration such as yoga, ballet, jazz, zumba, calisthenics, and etc. So kung matatandaan natin in our early years in elementary and high school, tuwing magkakaroon tayo ng flag ceremony ay meron tayong marching, o kaya naman ay stretching, o di kaya naman ay kaunting time para sa Zumba, mga 1 o 2 sayaw. And by doing this activity, nakukondisyon natin yung ating mga isip for learning, for creativity. Kung baga ay nawa-warm up tayo at nare-ready tayo na mag-absorb at matuto ng mga knowledge, abilities, at saka skills na pwedeng i-offer ng school at ng teacher.
That's all. Thank you.